Hi guys, welcome to my first ever live stream. So nervous right now. Let me take a drink first to calm my nerves. No, just kidding. But this is yellow wine, which is a natural companion for the Chinese mitten crabs, 大闸蟹. It's kind of like red wine and stick. I'll talk more about the yellow wine later, because that's the sideshow. This is the main event. This Chinese mitten crab is the male. I'm going to start with the male today for various reasons, and I'll talk about those in the future too later. The male crabs, they are compared to the female crabs, are relatively bigger, and you can tell they have like really hairy claws. But maybe it's a bit hard to distinguish between the males and females if you haven't seen them before. If you don't have the female as a point of reference, it'll be kind of hard to distinguish the male. But one foolproof way to identify the male is by the belly. Here, the apron. You see this pointy part, this triangular part. This pointy part indicates a male. Now, I'm going to work on this crab. Usually, crabs, they come tied with strings or reeds, as you will see later with the females. But this male crab was so lively, it untied itself from the strings, and it actually flipped over. We had to flip it back on its back while steaming. So that's a good sign, though. Well, it's not good in that the strings weren't tied very properly, but it's a good sign that the crab is very alive, because the Chinese mitten crabs, you have to eat them, you have to cook them live. You can't cook dead ones, because dead ones, they have toxins that's very bad for you. So now I'm going to work on the male crabs. There are different ways to disassemble the crabs, and I'll show you. There are like general rules that I'll kind of show you guys how to do this. It's not like a strict protocol or whatever, but usually general rule is that you break off the limbs first, the appendages. The legs, they're pretty easy to break off. You don't need crackers or mallets or whatever. Just hold on to this back part, and then near the joint, and then just twist. It comes off just like that. Very simple. And this back leg over here already fell off because it was struggling in the steamer. So again, very alive. So break these off first. It's pretty hot off the steamer. As I said in a previous video, my most recent YouTube video, crabs, they have a cold nature as per the principles of traditional Chinese medicine. So even though you eat the crab hot, it will still give you that coldness. So that's why we got the yellow wine and the ginger, chopped ginger in the vinegar. I'll talk about that too later. So break up the legs first, and then break up the claws. It's also pretty simple. You can kind of use point the claw toward the apron, the belly, and then use it kind of like a leverage and just twist it off. Very simple. Now I got tools like scissors and picks. I'll use those later, but you can totally eat the crabs with bare hands. Although I haven't been doing this with bare hands for a long time, so I might have lost my touch, but we'll see. So the first thing, usually you break off the triangular part, this pointy part at the bottom, and then inside you can see like this white stuff and this grayish like translucent substance. That's the real treasure of the male crabs. It's called xiegao, or crab paste, as I mentioned in that most recent YouTube video. This is the spermary of the male crabs, as in, it'll be like the testes, really. So if you find that a bit unnerving, I understand. But if you get to try it and you decide not to, you'll be missing out. Now, this is the good part of the male crab, so you can just like suck on it. To get your taste buds going. And then next, there are different ways to eat what's inside the crab. Usually you can just kind of like tap on the carapace to loosen the parts inside, and then in the back over here, where that triangular piece came off, that's an opening, and you just kind of stick your finger inside like this, and you just open it up, flip it open, and there we go. That's what the mitten crab looks like on the inside. The appendages, leave them later, because these, the spermary along with the tomali, that's the essence. Okay, so eat those first. Now this is the mouth of the crab, and inside over here, there's like a little chunk over here. I'll show you later. That's the heart and the stomach of the crab. That part is very cold as per in Chinese medicine. So that part you avoid. The rest you can eat. Like this gooey kind of substance. That's the spermary. That's the crab paste. The xiegao. That's the good stuff. Along with this yellow substance, that should be the tomali of the crab, as in the hepatopancreas. I also mentioned that in my recent video. The two are like scientifically they are separate parts, but usually when eaten they're like together. So you could just get a little bit of the vinegar inside. You don't have to use the vinegar. Actually, I know some people use soy sauce. I don't know why, but vinegar is the traditional choice. You don't have to use the vinegar, and usually sometimes I use vinegar, sometimes I don't, so it depends. You can just kind of like scoop it out with your fingers. Finger looking good. Now this part, you can break it in half if you want. Some people like kind of just like scoop it out with their hands, or if you use the tools, there's the spoon on the pick. You could use that too. What I like to do is to break it in half. And you can also remove the apron first if you want, but you don't have to. And then, so it opens up all these goodness, and you can just take a quick bite to taste the original untainted flavor. What I really like about the crab paste relative to the crab roe in the female crabs is that, as I said in that other video, it's milder, it's a little bit more mellow, but it kind of coats your mouth because it's kind of viscous, so it sort of like sticks to your gums and your teeth just a little bit, and leaves like this lingering sweet aftertaste. There's a Chinese saying, it's called 唇齿留香, meaning fragrance that stays on your lips and your teeth. It's used excessively and even wrongly by like writers, but I think it's a very befitting description for the quality and the property of the crab paste. Now, this next bite, I'm gonna dip it in the vinegar. I find that it accentuates the flavors pretty well. Now these little parts looks like feather. That's the lungs of the crab. Do not eat that. That's like a water filter, so don't eat that. You don't have to remove it. You can just break it apart and just avoid it. I find it easier to just rip it off. It's It's very simple. So it makes the subsequent parts easier. And this protein, I'm not exactly sure what this is, but usually I don't eat this. I heard this is some sort of a protein. So, but not like really good, like not the good type. So skip that. And then what comes next is this half of the body. Oh well, actually I should work on the other half of the goodness first. So right now, the crabs, the male crabs, they're beginning to reach their peak season. In Chinese, there's an adage. It's called 九雌十雄. It means females on the 9th month and males on the 10th month. The 9th and 10th months being months on the traditional Chinese calendar. So that would kind of equate to around September, October, November for the females, and then November, December for the males. So supposedly right now it should be like the peak season for the beginning of the peak season for the males, and then sort of like the end of the peak season for the females. You kind of like the females come a bit earlier, like maybe a month earlier. But as I've said before in that other video, autumn has been pretty late this year in Suzhou. The sweet scented osmanthus, guihua, the flower, has been blooming very late. The trees haven't turned red, leaves haven't turned red, and the crabs are kind of growing a bit later. So I had some male crabs last week, which was a part of the like the traditional peak season for the males. But at that time, the male crabs weren't very good. So, but right now, I feel like this crab is a lot better than this male crab is a lot better than the male crab I had last week. So it seems like they're maturing now. So this is the body of the male crab, and you can just kind of break it apart and just work on the meat. Just simply just kind of like, push them apart, pull them apart, and you can see like the crab meat held inside, and you can just work on it, just kind of pull them out with the fingers. It'll be easier with the tools if you want to use them. But again, the Chinese Mitten crabs, they're very soft relative to king crabs or whatever, or even snow crabs. So you really don't need the tools if you don't have them. But the tools do make things easier. So I've been sipping on that yellow wine. Yellow wine huangjiu is most famously made in Shaoxing, in Zhejiang province, down south, which is why it is oftentimes known as Shaoxing wine. And a lot of the recipes online ask for Shaoxing wine, and that's that kind of Shaoxing wine is the low quality Shaoxing wine. It's what we call 料酒 here in China. That's mostly used for cooking. For drinking, you usually go for like slight you usually go for like slightly better quality Shaoxing wine. The 料酒, I heard that it's not an official source, and I don't know, even if it's true, I don't know if it's still the case, but I heard that they add spices and herbs and things like that into the wine so that it's not really drinkable and is only used as a cooking as a seasoning, so that it may be sold without alcohol tax and at stores where they don't have alcohol license. Now for this kind of huadiao rice wine, yellow wine, they also come in like different categories. This one is called huadiao. Literally that means carved flour, because this kind of wine, so back in the days, they would be the good quality ones. They'll be contained inside pots where there are fancy patterns carved on them, hence carved flour or carved pattern. huadiao, that's what that means. This type of wine is, let me see, it says on here,半干型黄酒, semi-dry. The one tier, the dry one would be called 干型 dry wine. That would be called the yuanhong jiu, and then slightly wetter, those would be called 善酿酒, and that'll be the semi-sweet 半甜, and then even sweeter would be like 甜酒. It's also known as 香雪酒, I think. So those are you can drink those with different fruits, but for the 大闸蟹, Chinese mitten crabs, usually the best choice is the 半干型 semi-dry, because if you go with the drier one, the yuanhong, there isn't enough alcohol content to kind of like eliminate any potential fishiness in the crabs. And anything sweeter, like the semi-sweet or the sweet type of wine, they'll be too sweet and kind of overwhelm or overpower the intricate flavors of the mitten crabs. So usually, 黄酒, the 半干型 semi-dry yellow wine is the ideal choice for most people. Now this Chinese mitten crab, we purchased it online. I don't know where it's from, but Chinese mitten crabs, they are processed Chinese mitten crabs, mostly like meats and rolls. Those are available year-round nowadays. I'm going to use the tool. Those are available year-round nowadays because of like modern technology. So you can find them like bottled crab meats and such. But for this most traditional kind of enjoyment, just eating this steamed, as I'm doing right now, this is mostly available pretty much only in the autumn and early winter months. During the 6th month of the traditional Chinese calendar, there is a type of crabs called 六月黄, literally 6th-month yellow. That refers to Chinese mitten crabs that have just molted, not completely matured like these, but they've just molted. So, they've just molted. They have a little bit of the goodness inside and filled with flesh. So that kind of like you can. Those are pretty popular too, but usually those are more eaten as an ingredient in other dishes, such as stir fried with sticky rice cake and things like that. the traditional steamed crabs, you can eat them during this time of the year. So which is why it's a very autumn kind of flavor. It's very classic. Now the legs. You could also eat these without tools. I'm going to try that. I haven't done this in a while, but what you usually do is you kind of bite off the two ends so that they open up and you have the meat inside. So yeah, it's very simple. You don't need crackers. And then you kind of use another part of the limb, break it off, and just like stick it in and try to push it out. Make this a little bit thinner, and then you can just kind of push it out. Oh, like that. Oh, this one sort of failed. Sorry. Maybe the crab isn't very like super mature right now. Yeah, so maybe some of the limbs are not really filled with meat. Oh, this one's okay. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I'm going to resort to using tools to make things simpler. So you don't need much. Scissors, it's good enough. Cut that open, and you can just push it through. But this is still slightly a bit mushy. Sometimes they'll just push out like completely as a complete whole. This one is still slightly mushy, so which is why it was a bit difficult to just push out using the limbs. And then this part, sometimes if you're lucky, you can break out and you have like a complete strand of meat as well. But right now, still not like the most optimal time. So now, Chinese mitten crabs, I don't know where these are from, but they are most traditionally associated with Suzhou. Like Chinese mitten crabs are produced in many parts of, not many parts, in several parts of China. I've heard that lakes in Hubei province. Let's see, it's clear, but nothing left inside. But the meat isn't like very, very plump, so it kind of breaks apart. So it will be easy to eat with tools. Chinese mitten crabs, they're grown, bred in fisheries in lakes, around like Hubei province and Jiangxi province. I think yeah, those places have some Chinese mitten crab farms, but the crab is still most associated with Jiangsu province. So like up north near Huai'an, there's the Hongzhe Lake, and then in Gaoyou, that's Gaoyou Lake, and those are some places that grow the Chinese mitten crabs. Even Tai Lake, like right outside my window, there are mitten crabs bred up there too. But most famously is Yangcheng Lake in the north of Suzhou. That is like the most renowned site of production for Chinese mitten crabs. It's sort of like when you think of high-end Wagyu, Kobe beef comes to mind. But Matsusaka is really just as good, if not even better. But for most people, the name that comes first is Kobe. So it's the same with Yangcheng Lake. And nowadays, a lot of the crabs, sometimes they call themselves Yangcheng Lake Chinese mitten crabs, but usually they're only kind of grown there in the very last part before they're harvested. But the majority of the time, they're grown elsewhere in other lakes, but they end up coming to Yangcheng Lake for a brief swim because Yangcheng Lake is it gives them that brand name. They can call that Yangcheng Lake mitten crabs. And we've eaten mitten crabs on the shore of Yangcheng Lake several times. Those crabs sometimes have like really big ones, upwards of 6两, that would be about 300 grams. This one is about 200 grams. This one for male crab, 200 grams or 4两 is not that big. We've had much bigger ones, but still a relatively good size. These crabs, the heavier they are, the more expensive the unit price. It's the same with a lot of other seafoods. Because the bigger crabs, they usually have like plump, more meat that's more plump, and the Vinegar crab paste sperry, usually it's more flavorful, so that's why they command a higher unit price. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. Now the claws, slightly trickier without the tools. I'm going to demonstrate a bit here. Now, so break it off in half first by sort of like bending it like that. Now the next part, I could cut it. I could cut the shell open with scissors. That's adequate. But if you don't have tools, you can actually crack this with your jaw. Just gotta be careful of the sharp spines over here. So yeah, that cracks it, and then just kind of pick it apart slowly. And if you have the tool, of course, scoop it out. Dip in the vinegar if you want. Vinegar is the sour taste is believed to also help eradicate some of the potential fishiness, same as alcohol in the yellow wine. So this part you can also break it with your hands, and then the claws, you can just kind of bend it outward, and this part of the claw would come off, and you get access to the meat. And so this part looks tough, but yeah, it's actually easier than that elbow part because it doesn't have any sharp spine on it. There you go. This part, yeah, you can also crack it with the teeth. I guess I'll just demonstrate. Yeah. So yeah, Chinese mitten crabs, they are pretty small, and definitely not that like tough compared to like king crabs or like Sri Lankan mud crabs or whatever. So with enough practice, you could definitely just do this without tools. That's how I used to do it like years ago. But I've gotten accustomed to using tools and just speed things up. Chinese mitten crabs, it's one of those foods that you gotta be patient. It's not like eating a steak. Steaks, it's like you get that big chunk of meat placed in front of you, and you take big bites. So it's very gratifying that way. But with the Chinese mitten crabs, it's the process is part of the fun, and usually I enjoy it with someone else. Not today. I guess I'll enjoy it with you guys. But yeah, it's part of the process. And sometimes when during autumn, when we eat Chinese mitten crabs, say usually 4 or maybe 6 per person in one evening, that'll pretty much be like what we do for the entire night. Like it would take about 2 hours or 3 hours for 4 to 6 crabs. So it's a time consuming ordeal, but you get the satisfaction from breaking up the crabs and enjoying it like this. But if you don't have the patience, or if you're from elsewhere and you don't really know how to break down the crabs, there are many different dishes, especially in the Jiangnan area here, that makes use of the goodness of the Chinese mitten crabs. Use them in dishes. Now the crab has a pretty delicate flavor, so usually it's not coupled with very strong ingredients. So very common choices would be like 蟹粉豆腐, cooking that with tofu, or 蟹膏粉皮, like sheets made from mung bean powder. So things like that, something that are lighter in flavors. And then the crab legs, the little rods of crab leg meats, those are called 蟹柳. Sometimes you could use asparagus or something like that to stir fry. And then there are some other recipes that are a little more interesting, such as 蟹粉酿成. That would be crab meat and crab roll stuffed inside an orange, so you get a little bit of that sour flavor too. It would work sort of like the vinegar. And then not most famous, but very famous here in this part of China, like in Suzhou, in Shanghai, would be the use of the crabs in buns, like in the 小笼馒头 or 生煎馒头. Okay, so as I finish working on this last part of the male crab, I'm going to have, 帮我拿一下那个母蟹吧，谢谢. I'm going to have the female crabs. Crabs, you gotta, not you have to, you, for the steamed variety, if you cook them steamed, you gotta eat them hot, not cold. Although these crabs can be eaten cold, such as when they are marinated in like the drunken style, as shown in my last video. So this is the female crab. It's tied with strings. Now strings is kind of like a no-no in some cases, because traditionally reed is used, not strings. Strings, they weigh more and they soak up water, so they weigh even more then. And because the mitten crabs are sold mostly by weight, So those wet strings would add to the weight, and so that's kind of like cheating. However, we purchased this online. We paid for 175 grams, but then we weighted this on our own scale, and it came in at over 200 grams. So the wet strings have been accounted for, and even more. So it was a good deal. We didn't get cheated on or whatever. And here is the bottom bar. Look at this. Notice how it's round. As I said before, 九月圆脐十月尖，九月圆脐. In the ninth month, eat the one with the round belly. Okay, round belly refers to the females, and 十月尖 means in the 10th month, go for the pointy belly. Okay, so 九雌十雄, female in 9th month, male in 10th month. Same deal, same idea. So you eat this you break it down in a similar way. Break off the appendages first. So this is a female crab of decent size. Oh yeah, let's check out the carapace. You can see how the carapace side by side. You can tell there. Oh, actually, this female crab is not a lot smaller than a male crab. So this is a pretty big female. But then you can look at the claws. Claws are obviously smaller and obviously less hairy. But they still look kind of similar. So like I said, the most surefire way is to look at the apron, the belly underneath. That's how you can tell. The round is the female, the pointy is the male. So yeah, this is a pretty big female mitten crab. We purchased this online through an online grocer. We buy most of our mitten crabs online, and if you find the crabs to be lighter than what you paid for, you can actually complain, and that has happened before, and we complained, we got our money back. So I mean, the whole e-commerce industry in China is pretty mature. There are a lot of regulations in place, and so and on the big platforms like Taobao and JD.com and Pinduoduo, and even online grocers such as Dingdong Maicai or 每日生鲜. These are they're very good merchants, and we find them to be very, very honest, and yeah. So that's why we buy a lot of our things, the absolute majority of our purchases online. This part over here is from the underbelly of the mama crab, the apron, and this yellow part, that's the roe. 蟹黄 literally crab yellow, but the huang here refers to yellow colored roe. It's actually I've heard that they're not technically considered roe because they haven't been discharged from the body, but I think the chemical composition or whatever is pretty much the same. And so the inside looks very similar to the male crabs. But if you remember, the male crabs has the sort of like the whitish gray translucent gooey stuff, the spermary. That's the 蟹膏 crab paste. But that is absent in the female crabs. Instead, you have like this yellowish gooey stuff, and it's not translucent. That's the roe. And a relatively more solid looking part up here, the orange part, that should also be the tomale. But like I said, these two in practice, they are pretty much considered the same thing, and you eat them together. So I'm gonna enjoy my first bite without any vinegar. Just pure golden goodness. And vinegar, you don't have to add a lot, just a tiny spoonful, because you don't want it to, overpower the taste of the jiafan, of the crab roll. Not traditionally, but like in the real world, I think crab roll is slightly more treasured than the crab paste, because pound for pound, the females are a little more expensive. But I personally enjoy the crab paste more than the crab roll. But the crab roll I love too. Now again, this part connected to, so that should be the mouth of the crab. Connected to the mouth, that would be the heart and the stomach. Avoid those. But what I do is usually scoop it out, and then if I see some here, see there's still a lot of roll attached to this clump. So usually what I do, I still eat it, but I'll spit out the heart and the stomach. You can kind of tell because the heart and the stomach, they're kind of like this little clump of like hard, crunchy stuff. So you can just avoid that in your mouth. Again, these are the lungs. They're like little filters. You don't have to break them off. Right now, I'm just gonna go for the jiafan crab roll. Relative to the crab paste, this is it has a little harder texture. The crab paste is gooey, it's kind of like a paste. This one has a little bit more of a powder texture to it. I guess maybe it'll be something like scones, but denser, or shortbread, but softer. No, you don't feel the chunkiness. You don't feel chunks, little tiny chunks or nuggets. You just feel like this kind of like powder kind of sensation. And this part down here is even softer. And I think 5 days ago, I tweeted about eating Chinese mitten crabs. Tweeted about the females, and you can see in that short video, the crab roll that's like very orange and it's harder. That's because for that one we steamed a little bit longer. We put the crab in after the steamer has come to a boil. We put the crab in the steamer and let that steam for 20 minutes, and then turned off the heat and let the crab set in the steamer for I think another 5 minutes, and it produced a crab roll that is a little bit more solid and red. Today we put the crab in the steamer while the water was still cold, and then turn on the heat. And after the water came to a boil, we set a 15-minute timer and let it steam. And then after that 15 minutes up, we let that sit in the steamer for another 5 minutes. And the roll is a little bit softer, and there's more diversity in this texture. So but there's no like the correct way. As with like eating, there's really no correct way. Just eat however you like it. We experiment sometimes. Meat in the females, they're usually softer, and because they're smaller than the males, they're slightly harder to pick. But this female is decent. This is the peak season right now for them. Today is it's the middle of November, so it'll be usually it's this is like toward the end of peak season for female crabs, but this year they've been delayed, so still pretty good so far. And the crabs, is that usually you don't have to drink yellow wine, but I do. And yeah, for those who are more particular, I like to keep it simple and stupid at home. And if you see how I eat my regular dinners, that's really kiss. But right now, with the crabs, you still have to, go with the wine and stuff. Some people like to warm their yellow wine, and others they'll add huamei, preserved plum, to their wine, and maybe they have like specialized drinking glass. They'll heat up the wine in the bottle, and then pour the wine out into a little glass jug to be used on the table, while keeping the original bottle in the hot water so as to keep it warm. So there are like different ways to enjoy the yellow wine. But yeah, you can definitely drink it at room temperature, as I do right now, and some even drink it chilled. So yeah, many different ways to enjoy crab and Chinese wine. Actually, in Shaoxing, we went to Shaoxing last autumn, and being the cradle, the birthplace of, well, at least the most renowned producer of huadiao. They have their own ways of serving it. At the Anchang ancient town, we sat by the river and ordered some yellow wine. And it served that in a very dainty tin pot. It's very narrow. It's got like a bulbous bottom and then a very thin top, and then it's got like a long sprout. And heated the wine in that metal pot, and also served that with metal cups. So that's pretty interesting. So I'm going to finish this crabs. I have more to work on. So I guess I'll just wrap this up for my first live stream. If you end up watching this, let me know what you think, or if you have any opinions or suggestions, they're welcome. I have a new video coming up soon. It's already being uploaded. I'll talk more about the flavors of autumn and winter in that video, so check it out if you want. Thank you so much. 再见.